Good morning, Luke Eccles here, and I'm going to be doing a presentation on the sociology of mass media today. So the topics we're going to cover are an analysis of the implications for the individual and for groups with regards to the power of the media. Then we're going to have a look at the patterns of ownership and what impact that can be having on the content and presentation within the media. And then lastly, we're going to have a look at stereotyping and how that gives meaning to an audience. So the first model what we're going to look at first is the role of the mass media and the implications. So we're going to have a look at individual level and a group level. So the first idea is the syringe model, or what we call the magic bullet effect, whereby the audience is passive and they're injected with ideas from the ruling class. This is really a Marxist idea. And on a group level, what you would see is actually division. So there's the division between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. And essentially, the syringe model states that the bourgeois are able to inject ideas into the mind of the passive mind and create a false consciousness. And that's at the individual level. So if let's take the Bandura example, if violence is on TV, then someone would imitate that because they're passive. However, Young does question that, and he says there's actually a sensitization effect whereby people see violence, therefore they're less likely to use violence because they understand that it's unacceptable to use violence in all that. So there are some counter arguments to that. Now the next one is the cultural effects model, which is also known as a drip. So it's also known as the hegemonic, you could say, model, where individuals are passive here, and again a false consciousness is created. However, it's done a bit differently this time. So the individual's passive, and the idea is that you can basically manipulate ideas that are put into people's heads. However, that's done more indirectly in this model through essentially promoting a capitalist culture and values. For groups, that means again division, because this is based on a Marxist idea. So again, separating the ruling class and the proletariat, and again is the creation of a false consciousness. So very similar to the syringe model, whereby people are passive. So another one is the two-step flow model. So essentially it's very interesting because it kind of meets in between passive and active. So people have the choice about who they watch, however, then they internalize their views of somebody they watch. So it could be an individual that they follow on Twitter, or it could be someone on Facebook, or someone on the news that comes on, and as soon as they say, so it's on an individual, you're kind of passive because you accept their views and you'll internalize their views. However, you're still active in the fact that you can choose who you follow. Now, for groups, this would indicate that actually groups are quite passive because they will follow and copy the ideas of an expert, for example. Now, the uses and gratification model is a much more active model, whereby you have the free choice to decide who to watch and what views to take on. So, as an individual, you are free to choose who you watch or listen to, and essentially there's no mind control or anything like that involved in this. So again, for groups, it would be free choice, and that would be the idea behind that. So more of an integrative, because it's bringing people together that follow the same ideas. Now, with regards to content and presentation, concentration's been a massive issue with regards to the media, because what that means is that less people are owning more of the media. Now, the issue with that is, as Doyle says, in democracy, it's important that all points of view are heard, because plurality is a value that's important. Now, the problem with that is concentration can lead to a lack of diversity in information, because there's fewer products, and if there's more information out there, it's more likely to be similar to other information that's out there. So you're having a lack of information diversity, which could be called the illusion of choice. So that's really a problem, and it promotes similar ideas. Now, the good thing about that is what we can see is there are more channels, and the idea here is that consumer demand does shape the content, and economic rationality in terms of like economies of scale and economies of scope are achieved, and in the marketplace that can be really important. So those are some of the pluses. Well, some of the minuses might be, yeah, there are more channels, but maybe there's less choice. So again, it comes back to that idea of it's kind of more of the same rather than more different ideas. And less diversity can lead to more abuse, because the more power is centralised or concentrated, well, are journalists allowed to, let's say, investigate their own CEO if they know they're doing something incorrectly? Now that would be interesting, and because there's less CEOs that control more, it's less probable that these people will be investigated because they hold so much power. And Curran also states that there is proof that owners interfere and manipulate content and presentation. So that is something that obviously people need to be aware of when they're choosing their media, because essentially that allows powerful individuals to share their ideas, and that's something that needs to be monitored. So the research evidence relating to how stereotyping transmits meaning to audience. Well, essentially what we're looking at here is how stereotypes can perpetuate divisions or social divisions, because generally what we're speaking about is negative stereotypes. If we look through a few examples, it should become clear. So if we look at gender, for example, here you'll see that the men are fully clothed, looking professional, competent, whereas what we can see here and what Tunstall argues is that women represent sexual roles. So here we can see that women don't really have, relative to the men, many clothes on. So you could say that, as Ferguson argues, they're being inducted into the cult of femininity, and one of those things is beauty. So they're really trying to make the women look beautiful in that, rather than perhaps concentrating on the things that they've achieved in their career. As you could see, like there's a suit there for Harry, and that looks a lot more professional. So I'm sure that these women are competent and professional in some area, and perhaps that should be promoted. And that's what Gauntlet argues as a counter to Tunstall and Ferguson, and they say they're no longer objects of the male gaze, but as active, independent and powerful. And they, of course, in some circumstances that's true. However, in this example, I think we can see that actually that women are being represented as sexual roles there, and the idea of beauty is being promoted. Sorry. So the next one we'll look at is disability, and this is an interesting area that Barnes covered. And what we can see here is get the violent crazies off our street. Now this kind of fills in with the stereotype of disabled people being sinister. No, not disabled people. Sorry. You could say people suffering with mental issues, and you could see that they're being stereotyped and portrayed to be people that are evil. So again, this means that audiences will take away the message that anyone with a mental health issue could be evil. And ethnicity, the suspect killer is a migrant. So ethnic minorities are seen as threatening, and that's what Turn Van Dyke found when he looked at different portrayals of ethnic minorities and criminals as well. So again, we're stereotyping all migrants as criminals. So if somebody meets a migrant, their first thing could be, oh, I've got to watch my wallet or whatever around them. And so same again with social class. You can see here 4 million scrounging families in Britain. Again, it looks at social class and basically saying anyone that is on benefits or receiving benefits is scrounging. So the problem is with that is that many sociologists believe that media representations are a problem because they depict negative stereotypes. And this helps to maintain social divisions, and the issue is that is it can cause moral panics. So what we can see is there are different perspectives as to the role of mass media, and each model adds important factors to be considered. Diversity is important, and concentration is a problem, and stereotyping is also a problem for social integration. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much, and bye bye.